Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Unemployable podcast. Today we have a familiar face. I actually haven't met him before, but I've seen his face around, and he's actually an ex-NRL athlete as well as an owner of one of the biggest buyers agencies now here on the Gold Coast, and his name is Matt Sarama. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thanks for having me, lads.
Yeah.
It's great to be here. Been a follower for a while, and yeah, it's great to chew the fat.
Yeah, no, it's so good. Carson, I think it was you that reached out and said we should get Matt on. I think we had a couple emails back and forth. I was going through my emails, and I was talking to your executive assistant not long ago about getting you on the pod, or maybe me coming on your pod or something. But I think we lost contact. And then when Carson mentioned it, that was basically around the same time that you just one of your buyers bought a beautiful property here on the Gold Coast, which I like to talk about that
For sure.
later in the pod as well. For those of you guys that don't know, this is more of a property-based podcast that we're doing at Unemployable, and we've got Carson who's on the deck with us today. And Carson is a very interesting individual. He's very unassuming, but this guy in the last 4 years has done over $100 million worth of land deals, and currently developing about 170 lots across the Gold Coast and South Brisbane. And we've got James on the panel. For those of you guys that don't know who James is also a property developer, and has been in property developing now for how many years?
Yeah, it's just probably back in 2012. We
Yeah.
did a whole bunch of land subs and also townhouse developments to do about 135 keys over that period up in a little regional town called Toowoomba.
Yeah.
And now we're dipping the toe back in here on the Gold Coast, and a deal that you and I got going on. So
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see run through this podcast. So to hear from the buy side versus the usual rhetoric you get from the sell side agents. So
Yeah,
I'm looking to get into this one.
it's amazing because like buyers agencies, weren't really a thing many years ago. There was you'd hear about a few of them around, but I think they're becoming more and more popular. And I think a lot of people are confused on actually, like, why would you hire a buyer's agent? How do they actually work? Why don't I just find my own property? There's all these, I think, misconceptions. So we'll dig a little bit into that. But I also want to really think about the viewers and the developers and the want to be developers, because you're dealing with the people that are buying these things, right? You're dealing with prominent people from all around the country, specifically on the Gold Coast, right? You've niched really on the Gold Coast, and even with your podcast, Buying Gold Coast, you've niched into that as well, and that's what I love. So you're not like a jack of all trades, master of none. If you want a buyer's agent that specifically knows the Gold Coast, it's somebody like you. So let's go back a little bit so people could get an understanding of who you are and why they should listen. So let's give us a little bit of history on how you actually went from obviously an NRL professional athlete into being a buyer's agent.
Yeah, it's a sliding door moment, I guess, with how I ended up in the industry. I mean, one of my favorite quotes is always like, life will always open up doors. It's our job to walk through them. And then life will close the ones we're not meant to continue to walk through. And I felt my career in NRL, I had this, I'm 34 now. I had every envision to keep playing till at least late 30s, right? And unfortunately, at the age of 26, coming on the 27, I was medically retired. And it was a really hard time, that wasn't in my initial blueprint in life. And it was a really tough 1 to 2 year period because I pretty much come straight out of high school into professional sport. So the resume was completely empty. My whole life was revolved around this sport game, and for it to be cut short and then told that's it very instantaneously, and then your income's just going to dry up come off season, it's very scary and it's very tough. So for me, during my career, and this is why I talk about sliding doors, I was always interested. It's such a pressure cooker, the athlete environment. Like you're under scrutiny from your coach, the media. You've got someone younger than you chasing up your tail. You got someone above you you're trying to chase too. So you're always in the pressure cooker. And what I used to do to get away from the stresses of footy and professional athlete life was I love property. Don't know why, I just kind of fell into it. And then I started learning more around how to buy a property. You know, I used to read all the old magazines, used to go to all the seminars you could think of and just absorb it in my spare time away from footy. And then again, that sliding door moment, it was all right. If footy's not the open door now, that one's closing, I'm going to have a go at this property thing. And that's literally how it all came about. My income was cut in October, and I sort of said, all right, I'm going to enter real estate sales first. Come October 1, I was in real estate industry, fresh from the get-go. So that's kind of how the transition into this whole industry started.
And when you say real estate sales, obviously, was that just typical resale, like working for a Ray White or an LJ Hooker type of a business before you started the buyer's agency?
Exactly right. Yeah. So I worked for a company called McGrath.
Yep.
And obviously John McGrath, I liked his approach to business and systems processes. His brand was quite strong too. So I thought that could be a good company to learn off. And it was great. And I loved it. And I was doing really well, just selling property, learning the game of sort of you're a business within a business essentially. But one thing I observed heavily when I was on that side was the under, I guess, support for buyers. I found it quite interesting when someone used the analogy, like when you go to court, you know, you're represented by someone and the other side's represented by a defendant, and you kind of got a professional on each side. And when it came to buying property, especially here on the Gold Coast, I found it was the sales agent was representing the seller, but every buyer, and I found it tough because obviously I'm trying to get the best result for my client who was the seller. And we used to work on dialogue, and we used to do strategies, and we used to do training on how to put buyers in competition and negotiation things to try and get the price up. Because at the end of the day, yes, I obviously want to help buyers, but I'm getting paid from the seller. And that opened up again another door where I looked into this whole buyer's agent thing. I seen it in America. I seen it in Sydney. I seen it was quite prevalent down there in the eastern suburbs. And then I thought, why couldn't this work on the Gold Coast? And that's how I sort of just took the plunge and thought, hey, I really want to have a crack at business. I think I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I've got a lot of key traits I feel from professional sport that I think can apply straight to business. And I was like, let's do it. Let's launch a buyer's agency business, support the buyers. I want to have a go at entrepreneurship. And mid-COVID was the perfect time, and just, yeah, had nothing to do. Things shut down for a bit, and I started the business in my bedroom in late 2020.
2020. Can you walk us through the Sarama Group, right? And what that actually looks like as a buyer's agency, like kind of a step-by-step for the people that don't know what a buyer's agent actually does and how it works?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, in its simplest form, just like a sales agent represents the seller, a buyer's agent, it works exclusively and is represented for the buyer. So the biggest three things I've noticed that buyers give us feedback on and where they feel like they get huge value is saving time, saving stress, saving money.
Sorry, didn't see you there. While you're here, actually, we've got a new coaching cohort that just opened up for the Unemployable Property Coaching Program that you get taught on how to become a property developer. One-on-one coaching, bi-monthly coaching, and also events where we get a full coach bus with all the students and go to 6-7 different development sites. When I say development sites, from 1 lot to 10 lots to 50 lots. So you get to see exactly why we buy it, how we buy it, how we fund it, and also how you can do it yourself. The next day, we had an amazing event at the QT Hotel here on the Gold Coast where we had all of our consultants come in and teach everybody on what they're looking for with sites, what are the different trends, and how you can become a property developer yourself. Now you see me on the video, but who you're gonna be getting coached by is Shannon and Carson. Who's Shannon and Carson? 4 years ago, Carson was cleaning carpets. Shannon was a machine operator. Today, they're doing over $100 million worth of land deals. I know you're listening, and I know you want to take action. And if that's you, click on the link below or go to www.unemployableproperty.com.au and register your interest, and one of our team will reach out to you, and we'll see you on the next bus. Now get out of here.
And what we've kind of been able to capitalize on as well is giving Gold Coast buyers more property to choose from as well. Like a lot of people don't know there's things called off-market property, there's pre-market, there's a whole nother kettle of fish that a lot of people don't understand. But I've identified, yes, we negotiate great prices, and just because that's our, just like a sales agent is trained negotiator, our team are trained negotiators for buyers too. But probably the biggest one I've just realized in the world we're in at the moment, people are really craving to save time and stress. People live busier lives. There's family, there's careers, and then throw in the mix of a really competitive Gold Coast market. I find that kind of stress of buying property, people are valuing it more of like, hey, I get help getting my hair cut, I get help, you know, with a personal trainer. I want help buying a property.
What do you find is if people are buying their own properties themselves, and obviously a lot of people do it and do it really well, where do you think you add the most value? It's funny, because I sell a lot of my own stock myself as well, and a lot of people aren't very good at hiding their emotions.
Yeah.
They got to keep your cards close to your chest, like you see the wife's like, I love it, and I'm just like, well, this is the price is the price. Like it's not coming down. There's no negotiation, and that, you know, y- that's going to be an easy sell. Whereas you can kind of go in there and negotiate and do what you guys do well. Or do you find there's other things that people get carried away in auctions, or what do you find if you were to pick one particular item of the sales process, which is pretty multifaceted, but
Mhm.
where do you think you add the most value?
Such a good question. If I was to nail it just to one that really comes top of mind, especially on the I'm going to use the Gold Coast because I'd call it more of a seller's market. Like it's competitive. There's more demand for there is supply at the moment on the Gold Coast. I think you pretty much nailed it, Carson, around some people let pride get in the way of a good negotiation, and people let emotions get on top of them when it's crunch time. So what I mean by that is there's two sides. There's sometimes people won't buy a property because they're letting pride get in the way. They're thinking it's me against the agent. It's not worth that. They're not willing to work with the other party to try and create a good deal happen. The other side of it is people get too emotional, too, I guess, caught up in the thick of maybe an auction or a negotiation, and potentially overpaying for a property too, potentially not doing their due diligence because they're rushing, because their emotion of they've got settlement coming up and they've got nowhere to live, so they're just going to make a rash decision. So the biggest feedback we've had, which I use a lot, and because it was kind of a penny drop moment on where the value is lying, is people always say we're nearly like the conduit between their emotions and the property. And that can be on both fronts, in terms of some people are too emotional on being too stubborn, and there's people too emotional where they just fall in love with everything and forget about all the due diligence side.
You mentioned just before about you negotiate a great price now, whether that's below market, at market, or what have you. And you just also mentioned that the Gold Coast is a fairly competitive space. There's a lot of sellers, more sellers than sellers market, I should say. Sorry. So what's your edge when you go to an agent that's potentially got a pre-market deal or off-market deal that's about to come on, or on a market deal? What's your edge when it comes to negotiation? So you can the agent goes, yeah, I'll take your deal on your client Matt versus Rob and Mary's.
Yeah, that's a huge one too, is the representation of your offer is a huge one. So for example, I remember when I was a sales agent and you'd have all these buyers wanting to have private inspections, and like, I say the open home Saturday, and it's like, no, I'm qualified buyer. You waste your time, you go there and they haven't even got finance approved, And so what I learned quickly as a sales agent, this is what I noticed the best sales agents do, is they qualify very well. Like you have to kind of understand who that buyer is, what their story is, what their background is, firstly from a qualifying side. Now, why that's important when you go out to buy, and if you're, say, represented from a buyer's agent, all the agents on the Gold Coast know our clients, we can't work with anyone who isn't cash or finance approved. Or we don't work with anyone who's got a subject to sale. We don't work with anyone who hasn't got the formal letter from the broker, and we don't work with anyone who hasn't got settled funds and deposits ready to go. So straight away, and the big one is people pay a retainer up front to engage us too. So you could imagine the agents, if we're asking to kind of get access better, or potentially there's 3 offers on the table. I don't know who these other 2 are, but I know the Sarama Group's client is, we've touch wood, we've never had a deal fall over due to finance. It's red hot, so it's clean, and that's probably the big one, is just getting seats at more tables, but then probably getting more advantageous looks. And a big one as well, this is one I'm really passionate about on the Gold Coast, is some buyers agents out there as well, like, promote how much they're buying below market value. And like, at the end of the day, I don't feel that's beneficial. Obviously you want to buy things well, but this is the Gold Coast. Let's be realistic. Like, if you say you're going to try and buy something 200 grand below market, like, it's not out there. So what I find the key is, though, is you need to think of strategies and ways that you can get in the market before getting priced out. And that is the number one thing I think the average buyer struggles to understand, is that every single month they are sitting outside of the market. They are costing themselves money. Based on the percentage growth we had last year, I worked it out, it was roughly on $1 million purchase, around 12 grand per month that they stood out of the market. So every month they're out, it's pretty much another 12 grand to the borrowing capacity.
I have this conversation with so many people, right? Friends, acquaintances. I've got friends and acquaintances for 10 years have been waiting, right? Like, literally, market's going to come down. Market's going to come down. And the reality is, like the old saying goes, you can't time the market. It's very difficult to time a market, right? If we all knew how to time a market, whether it was in real estate, whether it was in stocks, whether it was in crypto, we probably all wouldn't be here.
Mate, I'm on an island somewhere. That's it.
Yeah, like that's the reality, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you have to take the plunge.
Yeah.
Right. And it is daunting for a lot of people, right? Like, going out there and going, okay, honey, we're going to go and buy a property. And I'm not talking from a first time home buyer perspective. I remember when I bought my first home, like, I was scared shitless. When you're literally talking about those types of numbers. And because at some point, the scariest part, right, is when you press the transfer button. Or but when I first bought my property, it wasn't a transfer button. It was literally you're going to the bank and doing a telegraphic transfer. And then you're just hoping everything is going to work out. But the reality is you have to take action. And what I like about a buyer's the buyer's agent, to be honest, I've never used a buyer's agent before. I know a lot of people that have used a buyer's agent, and there's no reason why I haven't used one. It's just I really haven't had the opportunity or thought about sitting down and going, hey, this is what I'm looking for. Do you want to help me? Right. But I think what it takes away is a bit of that stress, like you said, right? Having a trusted person that you can sit down with, that has your back. And a big thing that holds people back, and I know from previous conversations with people about buyer's agents, you mentioned it before, you said, there's an upfront retainer, and some people will like that and some people will not like that. But at the end of the day, in the real estate game, there's so many people out there that just waste people's time. They will go to open homes, they will pretend, they will put expressions of interest in, and have no idea, cannot afford the property. But I think what people do is they get excited and they watch these television shows and flip this and flip that, and Selling Sunset and all, and they get excited and they literally just go around to open houses and waste agents' time and waste people's time. So for you, take my hat off to you, going, I don't use this, I don't take these clients, I don't take these clients, and this is who I do take on, because you got to be very clear in what you're doing. But another question I have is, so who do you typically represent? So are you representing like first-time home buyers, investors, high net worth clients? Where is your niche? So if somebody's listening to this and they're a first-time home buyer and they're like, they resonate with you, is that something that you do, or are you more in the high net worth, or are you investment, or are you everything?
Yeah, such a good question. I've loved the evolution of our business, and I just love business too. Like, I really enjoy business. And one thing I've noticed around the offer is it's changed over the course of time. So if you were to ask me, probably when I first started, when it was just me, it'd be a section of the Gold Coast, suburb to suburb, and generally a price point of back then, probably like 600 to 1.4 was kind of first home buyers, whatever. It was just, I didn't take on clients who were looking way up north end. I didn't take clients in New South Wales, Brisbane, things like that. It was just kind of a niche. As the business has evolved, the brand's grown, more people in. I've just seen the power of the city of the Gold Coast. Like, I am truly passionate. There's sections of the Gold Coast that are pumping. I mean, Carson, yeah, I'm sure I know you've done some things around the coast. Like, there's so much opportunity still on the Gold Coast. So what I intentionally did, instead of going wide, we had approaches to launch in different cities, nationwide. I sort of thought there's way more potential still. Like, there's so much on the table we could still dominate here on the coast. And why try and spread ourselves too wide? So what we've done, to answer your question, is we've kind of segmented, and I built a team now of specialists within the niche of the Gold Coast. So for example, we got a North Gold Coast specialist who deals with, say, Broadbeach North. Then we've got someone who always loves first home buyers. She's amazing with first home buyers, very empathetic. She's been there, done that. We have someone who's now doing the Tweed Shire, New South Wales contracts are different to Queensland. I've been myself, I like working with more the business owners, knockdown rebuilds, high net worth people, and I've got someone I'm training up, and they'll look after that shortly as I try to grow more the brand and the business. So to answer your question, as long as it's sort of the Gold Coast Tweed area, we've got someone now to cover it. And my advice to anyone who might be looking to start a buyer's agency or anything, but I think the power is in the niche. What they say, the riches are in the niches. So I just believe we've built a team of 13 and all of them play a key singular role. We've got someone now we're training to just do the due diligence section of the process, because someone who's really good at systems, processes, checklists probably isn't a great, BDM person, so I'm understanding that around the different psychology points of, I want to keep everyone in their swim lane of where they actually find joy and have fun in too. Because Olivia, one of our team, Olivia, she lives and breathes Hope Island. She's got the buggy. She's got no interest in buying south of sort of your northern Gold Coast. So that's, if I was looking on the northern Gold Coast, I'd be loving having someone who lives and breathes it.
So you go ahead. Yeah, I was going to say, just back on that time in the markets and the opportunity left on the Gold Coast. Last year, I thought would actually track property prices on the Gold Coast back to 2020 to 2024 and see what happened through the GFC. And again, it's a pretty big basket. You've got land, resi, all resi based, houses, townhouses, and apartments in there. And I think it was a pullback overall, of a marginal pullback of 10 or 12% over that. It was don't quote me now, it was 2010 or whatever it was. It flattened for 2 years and then off it went again, tripled, and now we're getting that parabolic state in the market. But not only that, the Gold Coast used to be the casino of the property market, Australia-wide. Massive swings. It was a holiday town. Now it's not. It's turning into a bit more of a city. So that opportunity for, as you said, a lot more opportunity in the Gold Coast sort of resonates with the data that's coming through that I've been looking at, that's for sure. And to Eric's point about trying to time it, good luck.
Yeah.
You're either wasting time or you miss a market altogether.
Yeah. And it's a huge one. I know Channel 9 reported on it the other week too. Like, the prediction, everything is leading towards we're going to be the first non-capital city to reach 1 million residents. So, which is really exciting because, and the key driver of that, you pretty much nailed it, mate, around we're not just tourism anymore. The film industry's had a huge influx of huge productions coming here. The medical industry is massive. The wellness industry, tourism's still pumping as well. Post-COVID, people are now moving here more than just holidaying. And probably the biggest one of all, I've noticed this, is that the demand of migration is increasing, but the inventory levels and supply, that's why I love people who are actually adding to our economy by doing subdivision and putting town, because we don't have enough roofs over the heads. So at the end of the day, supply and demand 101, right?
Just on that, about what would be the split of the Southerners as your clients versus locals?
Yeah, great question. Post-COVID, mate, honestly, probably 60 to 70% of the business in 2021 was Melbourne and Sydney. And if you were to you guys would probably relate being in the industry and done deals and things like that. You know, when there's a hot buyer, like I'm talking the people in Melbourne were like beyond hot. They'll like, get me out of here. And it's something I've never witnessed in my life around how strong emotion is towards property price growth. Like there was people who weren't using a buyer's, like they were just paying whatever to remove themselves out of a city and get up here because they weren't happy with, you know, the government system down there and all sorts of stuff. So that was really surprising, and that opened my eyes on like, because I'm Queensland born and bred, I don't know any different. I understand now people actually put a huge price and value on lifestyle post-COVID. That little pause in COVID made people understand that there is more to life than climbing maybe the corporate ladder, their jobs. They had time to think as a family and sort of be still. And they understood that I actually don't enjoy where I live. It's cold. Like, what are we doing? And that buyer demographic was huge. I didn't realize how many felt that way. So that was huge, 2021, 2022. And then it's kind of leveled back out. Probably, 60-40, 60 local, 40% still. I put that into, that could be interstate anywhere. And also we're seeing a lot more overseas now, heaps more overseas again.
So just on that, you started in your bedroom in COVID, and 2021 you're active, obviously, by the sounds of, because you're interstate buyers. How'd you kick off the Sarama Group and get actually eyeballs on you to then be able to build a business around being a buyer's agent?
Yeah, I'm passionate. That's why we're talking off air around media and content and stuff like that. I just thought, what is the quickest way? Because I used to get it all the time. Like, hey, can you sell my house? I'm like, I'm not a sales agent. Like I felt I needed to nearly educate the Gold Coast market on the difference between a sales agent and buyer's agent. And the first 2 years I said to myself, look, I'm just going to stay consistent with creating awareness. And all it was, if I can just pop up, educating more on like buying, like the benefits of a buyer's agent, what a buyer's agent does, and just stay consistent. We're talking of it. Like if you're going to commit to something, just stay with it. I thought if I do that, at least, and it doesn't work out, at least I know I gave it a crack. And then fast forward, the first 2 years went from one person to a team of about 4 or 5, like really quickly, because I understood there is a market here. There's an addressable market that needs this help. And so that was my big strategy is purely awareness, like thinking at what is the easiest ROI. When you're starting a business, you might not have budget for huge billboards and radio ads and things like that. I think social media is still a very low hanging fruit.
I see with a lot of people at the moment, a lot of our audience is development side of things. I'm keen to get your thoughts on what are you seeing people doing more of as part of like reno flips as opposed to luxury builds? Are you seeing more people make more money out of the renos, or making more money out of the luxury builds? Are you seeing what's the kind of that your clients doing the best here?
Yeah. Probably the hardest thing is because of the supply and demand imbalance. I think land values, because that's where the value is at the end of the day. It's in the land, it's in the dirt, and the dirt on the Gold Coast is getting more valuable. You got ocean to the east, and then you got hinterland to the west, where you can't build in those two places. So any of that, I love the word landlocked. Any of that landlocked dirt is very valuable. The hardest thing I've noticed, especially in the last 24 months from working with so many people doing knockdown rebuilds or renovations, is the land value margin is getting increasingly more. So before you could sort of secure a rundown thing and, the fat was pretty good on the back end. It's becoming harder, right? And this is my estimation on what I think is going to happen. We're in the middle now where it's really hard to do figures on today's sales for tomorrow's results. So what I mean by that is, again, I'm not a developer, but I've just worked with a lot. And my theory is the margin, it'd be hard to stack things up, I feel. Like it really would. I can see that. And it's hard to promote evidence on something that isn't there either. You know, so it stacks up hard if you're banking on where it's going. It stacks up every day of the week, but there's no real evidence to say if I build this on this allotment in this postcode, I should get that, but will I get that? It's a ballsy move. I think in the next sort of 12 to 24 months, as these, like, there's some 5 mil things that have just gone under contract that not many people know about. 5.5s. These are dry blocks, by the way, in just Burleighs, Palm Beach. They're all going to start popping up. I think then it's a bit more evidence to say, like, hey, like, yep, it seems like the dirt for a 405 block now is 2 million, you know, high ones, low twos, feasible.
And that's probably where buyers agents can come, you know, to the forefront really well, because you guys are getting the real life information before, you know, RPE data's saying, oh, we've had a 10% growth. You know, okay, we've had an interest rate cut. This week there's 5 times the amount of people going through the open home. So that's probably where you guys will, you know, add a lot of value to your clients, where not everybody's in the market quite like yourself and a lot of agents and us that are quite active. So yeah, I think if people, you know, reach out to you, they're going to have that kind of that information where you can kind of guide them and say, hey, I know the last duplex sold for 2 million, but the one around the corner just got by 2.5. The data hasn't even been released yet. So, and that's when we picked up subdivisions basically off the back of that, where we knew land was selling for 400,000 and then a block hadn't sold for, you know, 12 months, and then all of a sudden it sold for 550, and all of a sudden the fees don't work. And before anyone else jumped on that site, because I was in the market and I knew what was happening live. But if you don't have the time, that's where someone like yourself can really
and with that settlement, especially with development sites, oftentimes they're not usually settlement in 30 days or 45 days. If you've got a contract and it's a 9-month subject to DA, you've got the real life data here. The average person who goes to Price Finder or RP data doesn't get that data for 9 or 12 months later. The market's moved. And they're trying to base their fees on outdated data.
Well, there's such a lag. That's what I meant. That's
lagging.
There's such a that's lagging data in a property. Like, you look at now, and I know we're specifically speaking on Gold Coast, but you look at, you know, Mermaid Waters for a 750 square meter block of land, you know, on a canal now is $3 million for a knockdown. You know, like I like that's gone up $1 million in not a long time. Right, and all of a sudden there's one. Then it's like, ooh, man, that's high, right? Like, ooh, and then all of a sudden there's another one, and then there's another one, and then there's one for 3.1, and then
they all go 4 years.
All of a sudden, that's the market. Right. And this is what happens in real estate, right? All of a sudden, you're waiting, and you just get priced out of the market.
So,
go ahead.
No, I was going to say you absolutely nailed it, Eric. I call it chasing the tail. And I love what Carson said too, because this is where who uses a buy and who does. If you're active in the market, that's what I always say to people. Like, I use the analogy, like, some people are rowing a boat and the boat is sinking and they need help. They need to patch it back up and get back on track. There's other people who are rowing a boat and they will get from destination A to B, and they're using oars and they're paddling it. Every doubt they will get there. A buyer's agent is purely someone who can potentially put a motor on the boat and get them from A to B quicker. Yes, there's some people who need repairing and then we restart, but I find the people we work best with are the people who need to get to A to B a bit quicker to avoid getting priced out. But then there's another pool of like active buyers. I feel they're doing a lot of what a buyer's agent does. And that's what I say, a buyer's agent isn't for everyone too. If you're active in the market, I think you have to understand what Carson said is the lagging data and on the ground, because chasing the tail is one of my favorite things I learned in real estate, especially on the coast, is that at the moment, buyers are chasing the tail. So use the really good example, land value, say for Mermaid, it's gone from like 2.5 to 2.7 to 3. And it's not worth that. It's not worth that. It's not worth that. Fast forward 6 months, they're going back to the bank asking for more, or they're now in a different suburb further west. So buyers are chase the tail up. What will happen is, as every market, sellers also can chase the tail down. So, you know, my house is worth 2 million. I know Deb's down the street. Mine's far better than that. Mine's worth 2 million. What happens is the market goes down. neighbor sold for 1.8, 1.6, and the same thing can happen to sellers too. They chase the tail down. And so it's just that kind of what I noticed on the Gold Coast, we're always in kind of flow of one or the other. But because of the supply and demand, we're definitely on the side of buyers chasing the tail at the moment. So you need to understand where on that tail you are as a buyer.
So you mentioned before about pre-market, off-market, and then obviously on-market sort of stuff. Couple of questions there is, because you're a buyer's agent, what's the competitive advantage of that and how does that work? And secondly, what's the split with you guys within your agency of, off-market or pre-market deals versus on-market, if there was that data?
Yep. So 64% of our business is done off-market. One thing I always say though, we turn away more off-markets than we actually buy because people will come to us, get us an off-market team. I say, hold on, what makes off-market so attractive? And they're like, it's way cheaper, isn't it? And I always say, there is a pool of sales that can happen off-market where it makes sense. But I can tell you now, there's times where we will let it run on-market. So for example, we're dealing with one of our Southern Gold Coast team at the moment, dealing with a property for our knockdown rebuild client. We've got it on paper, countersign. We could own it today. We're actually giving the advice to let it run online and potentially run to auction because I think we could get it at a better price. So that's one example. The other, and that's knowing not only the price we feel it's worth, that got to make sense for the client's needs, but also understanding the seller's motivation. I think people underestimate how big motivation is in terms of sales. So what I mean, a good off market is potentially one where the seller's motivation, you can tap into that and create a win-win for both parties. So fast forward literally 2 weeks ago, we secured a corner block, dual street frontage. There was just an old lady in there. We secured what we felt was pretty strong under market value. The terms were we had to put a 90-day settlement and the potential that we could extend as well. If she didn't find anywhere, we could extend that as well and she could rent it back as well, like a rent back clause. So there was a lot of toing and froing. She valued that more than getting more at an auction. So that's what I always say is to answer your question, they're good off markets. There's bad off markets. You need to understand the seller's circumstance and create a strategy around that.
And so back to that part of that question was, for the people that don't have the time, how do you come across these off markets and pre-markets? Is it relationships with agents? Is it people that are looking to sell come to you before they get an agent? Just to give people a bit of a understanding of how that works.
Yep. I'd say the split's probably 90% through an agent, 10% direct vendor. So again, just because our brand's getting bigger, that's probably ticking up to 20% direct vendor. People reach out literally on social media and just say, hey, we got a house. We just secured one waterfront in Nobby's Beach, behind the Oxley, all around there. A little for a client who loved that pocket. They just reached out to us and we said, the key thing is that we always respect, are you chatting to a sales agent? We don't, because they're our clients too. So we're not the type of agency that will step on agents' toes, because at the end of the day, I think that's where our reputation has come. We work with them. So that's always question one is are you dealing with a sales agent already? Is there a Form 6 on? If not, hey, happy to show someone through.
So if somebody had a property, right, people listening now, they have a property and they're prepping it for sale, or they might not be for sale, but they're like, you know what, everything is for sale. The reality is everything is for sale at a price, right?
Yeah.
Other than, wife and kids, someday wife maybe, definitely not the kids. So would they come to you, when they come to you and say, hey, I've got this property, right? It's a one of one, and I don't want to take it to market, but if you have somebody, let me know. What's it costing me as the seller? Because a buyer's agent obviously gets paid from the buyer, right? They're giving you a retainer, plus there's a percentage which we'll go through when later in the pod. But how does that work? Do you then get a comm as well for selling it from on my properties of Form 6, or are you just getting paid one way?
Yeah, great question. One way only. Otherwise, that's a conflict of interest. So it's cost nothing, essentially.
And the reason why I'm asking this question is, if you start building a relationship with someone like Matt, which I will be after this podcast, because I'm in the development game and you don't know what I'm doing right now, right? And you probably want to know what I'm doing because you might have buyers already going, hey, I'm looking in this postcode and I'm looking for something like that. Whereas if I just go straight to an agent and, I sign a Form 6 at 2 or 3% and the thing is $5 million, that's an extra 150 grand that you're going to pay, right? Whereas if you know that almost what they call kind of like a pocket listing,
Yeah.
it's almost like, I know this guy's not going to go to market, but he has this.
Yeah.
And you can go to your database, obviously, and say, hey, for anyone looking, I've got something that I can show you, and a deal could get done off market, and it's a win-win for you. The buyer feels like, wow, I just bought a property that nobody even knew about because Matt's contacts. The vendors just sold a property, saved. It's a lot of money, right? Like, that's the reality. But then there's the other side to it going, is that what the market is willing to pay, right?
Yes,
And this is where
exactly.
a lot of other agents, and I love that auction model from a selling perspective as well, because of the emotion that it builds, and people do very stupid things emotionally, as we all know, like what you've seen, obviously, and what we've seen over the years during, COVID and that type of thing. So that's very, very interesting that it's only the one way.
And it's a huge point. I always say this, like, I'm always transparent because I've been on both. A lot of our team have been sales agent, and I strategically did that because we work really well with the industry, because if you've been in the shoes of the other stakeholder, you can have more empathy and understanding. So we're very big on, we never cut anyone's toes kind of thing. So that's the first question we always are you signed for forms? Are you chatting to anyone? Because we don't want to step on toes. I always say this, it depends on what your outcome is. So here's 2 examples. Number one is that example where we bought one direct vendor. They're about to head to Bali for 6 months. And yeah, they'll auction it when they come back. But they're like, hey, they literally said that if you got someone, like, yeah, we would sell. Yeah, we can probably get more, but we're about to enjoy 6 months away with our kids. She's a rat bag. Like, we'll have to get it cleaned up and do all that. So we literally took someone through. One of our central Gold Coast team took someone through that day. And you deal with solicitors. Solicitor talks to their solicitor. We agreed on a price. And then, yeah, everyone was happy. I say, though, her circumstance found that attractive. If you're looking for profit, like you're looking to create competitive tension and squeeze every dollar out of the market, you'd be silly not to advertise it, put it at auction, create a full campaign, go through a sales agent who's fully taking your listing serious. That's what I always say is, like, it depends on what you need and want. Circumstance. Yeah, exactly right. Because we are not going to go take your sale or your property and we're not going to advertise. We're not going to squeeze it. Like, we work for buyers. Like, our time is not that used to sell property. So that's why we always say is we're happy to keep it in our back pocket. But if nothing comes of it, at least you've let someone know.
How should someone prepare before engaging a buyer's agent, right? So I don't waste your time. I'll use me as an example, right? So I don't waste your time. What would you like me, right, to have in place to call you or to call one of your team?
Yeah, I always say the best people, or the best time to use a buyer's agent is when you're ready to act. ACT, act. So A stands for approved. So either you've sold, you've gone to the broker and they've given you like a pre-approval. So your finance is somewhat understood, because that's going to lead to the C, which is you're clear on criteria. So for example, some people will come to a buyer's agent, they'll say, hey, I really want to live in Eleanor, Palm Beach. I've got a house, but I've only got $1 million. It's just like you're wasting time, right? Like, straight away we can understand that, hey, your criteria is not quite clear yet. Let's work on that before we even engage. So once you know the approval, that will make it clear then on what you can actually get. And if that aligns with you, then you can go to the T, which is transformative mindset. And what I say by that, transitional mindset. What I mean by that is some people are approved, they're clear on criteria, they get the best deal in front of their lap, but they're not in a transitional mindset. And what I mean by that is they're not willing to depart with their either deposit, they're not willing to depart from the family home. They're push comes to shove. It's like, you got to sign. Like, it's not, I'm not actually mentally ready. And that's something I've realized over the course of time. Transitional mindset's really important, because some people give them the best deal. You'll make all this money. It's your dream property. It's literally A to Z what you ask for, but there's an underlying, we're actually not ready to move. And I made that mistake early on with the company back in the day. Like, some people, you got to understand, and a question we always ask is, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, if the right property came up, you told us you're clear on your criteria. If the right property came up tomorrow, are you mentally ready to make this move or make this investment into a property?
So does that, hence why there's an upfront retainer, we sort of clear out that T part, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Because
yeah.
the ultimate qualifier, I've got some of your cash now, so the trigger needs to be pulled, or you're out X amount of dollars.
Yeah, it's skin in the game.
Correct.
At the end of the day. And the good thing around the fee structure as well is we refund that on the back end too. So that's why, again, at the end of the day, buyer's agent isn't for everyone, but it really helps people who are ready to act. Approved, clear, and in a transitional mindset.
What are the expectations around a buyer's agent, just in regards to, conducting due diligence, as an example?
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm looking at, buying a property and I'm confused, I'm from New South Wales, I'm from Victoria, I just know I want sand between my toes, right? I want the Gold Coast sunshine, and I want to be between this suburb and that suburb, but I don't know too much about the Gold Coast.
Yeah.
I'm willing to engage you. I'm going to pay you an upfront retainer. What's the expectation around the amount of work that you do, right? That your agents actually do. So do you actually go and do you hold hands with a client and go, okay, let's sit down and have a round table. Let's pull up the Gold Coast map. Let's show you the different suburbs. Why Nobby's Beach is good, because the Oxley's just been built. We've got Burleigh that's pumping at the moment. Palm Beach is transformed. These types of things. Do you guys actually, is that part of your service, or do you expect the actual buyer to do that on their own time? Obviously, they probably will do some of that on their own time anyways, but how entrenched, I guess, do you guys get into that search, that C, which is criteria?
Yeah, great question. So some people will come to us super clear. Some people will come to us ready, but not quite clear. And there is a time, like, again, using the boat analogy, some people know the destination. Like, they're like, we're going straight to there. Some people are like, I'd like to go in that direction. And we just help them find the right port to land on. So for investors, there's a lot more kind of advice, because at the end of the day, some people are engaged us because, like, this is my deposit. This is what I like to achieve. I love the Gold Coast. I see all the news things and that. Can I get a good investment property? We show them a few examples, yield, returns, stuff like that. Is that something aligned? Because that's out there right now. They say, yep, cool. Owner occupiers a little bit different. Some of them we ask good questions around, and our team have really trained on lifestyle factors, because at the end of the day, I found 90% of people move here for lifestyle, and lifestyle is entrenched in family life as well. So where the kids going to school, where do you go to the gym? Where do you like to shop? What sort of lifestyle do you actually like? And I always find people are either, a North Gold Coast, or a Central Gold Coast, or a South Gold Coast. It's nearly like 3 different lifestyles, and they've all got amazing things to offer. So we kind of help them navigate that first, and then we get really detailed. So for example, then we go into the actual property types. So some people want bigger floor plans. Some people want low maintenance. Some people need second living because their daughters are always dancing, and some got 4 dogs, so they need a huge yard. So it just really depends on the person.
And for the developers, how far do you go with the due diligence for that? Just a ballpark, well, this sell for 2, the build price could be this, X, Y, and Z, so it fits within the parameters, so you're not dishing up this well overpriced property.
Yeah, with developers, and this is something, again, finding niches within niches. I'm in the process now of building out the team in terms of, commercial is a huge one we want to go down. We're getting people love the service that much. We've got so many 5-star reviews, and they're like, can you do the same but for a commercial property? Because we own a business and we need some space. We want an investment property that's more cash flow positive. We got good capital growth things. So that's an avenue. Developers are another one that is building big time on the Gold Coast. So even though I've done a lot with knockdown rebuild, the developers, I think they deserve someone, just a specialist developer who can go deep with them on that. We have helped them, but we always say upfront and transparent, we will help more on the acquisition side of the site. So my goal and dream is to like provide them with, like proper metrics on like potential this, potential that, back-end prices, data. But at the moment, we got a service now where it's more, we upfront site acquisition, a lot of them take the sites and will run it through their own physios, because that's probably one thing I learned too. Everyone has a different physio style.
Well, I want to go more into the developer side of things, because we're all developers on the table. And I just find it like, I used to, be heavily involved in a project marketing business. So I understand that game very well. And, James and I, we've got a live deal right now in Burleigh Heads, which obviously is a good little pocket of the Gold Coast. And I just look at it, there's such an opportunity, right, for someone, right, or a group to figure out, like, the keys are in your hands, really. Like, if you can go and create the network around you and go, okay, because the reality is, we want more projects, right? To get more projects, we need people looking at deals. We need people finding deals. We need people relating that information back to us, right? Not just going on REA and going, oh, there's a, most of the, usually if it's on REA,
it's been sifted through a lot of people.
Correct. Yeah. So, and then obviously us sitting with someone like you or a developer that's listening, whether it's knockdown rebuild, whether it's a duplex, whether it's townhouses, whether it's a luxury development, a bit, I shouldn't say a bit of land, a lot of land with what Carson and Shannon are doing, because you guys are dealing with both sides. You're dealing with the buyer, right? But the developers always is the buyer as well, but they are the seller at the same time, right? So the bigger the database that you can create is going, okay, hey, I want to find a duplex site in these areas. Do you have buyers? Like my first question, if I were to sit with you, right? And this is good advice for anyone that's listening that, does reach out to, Matt and the group, would be, where are people wanting to buy? What are they wanting to buy? Is it 3-bedroom? Is it 4-bedroom? Is it rooftops? Is it what are people wanting, right? Like interstate, Melbourne, it's a different style of living down there versus Sydney and these types of things, right? So that way, when you're sitting down and you're working feasibilities out, you already know, because you've seen on both sides. So you can piece it together. I feel like it's a buyer's agent, like a lot of buyer's agents, especially these real young guys that are going out there now on TikTok and Instagram and going, look at this property, right? I bought this property for my client, and and we all know those guys, and God bless them, because they're putting out good content and they're getting business out of it. But it's like, they've bought that and it's finished. I'm just going to find you another one. What they need to be thinking about, and I feel like what you guys, like you said, that whole development space, no one's doing it. No one's actually
exciting
doing it, right? Like if you were to tell me, hey, like, I'm zero emotion, right? You tell me, I've got clients that want this in this area. Let's go find it and let's go build it. Do you know what I mean? Like that's where it needs to get to, because for us to go, hey, we think people want this based on other agents telling us, let's go buy this, and then let's go put it on realestate.com, and let's spend $7,500 a month on a project profile. And you know what? Domain's another $1,500. Not much happens on Domain, but it's $1,500. Let's throw $1,500 there. And then we got urban.com, and these are all different platforms where developers like us will sell on. And then all of a sudden, it's 6 months down the track, and you spent $50,000 on marketing. Like there's so much cost that gets built into this that we can pass on to, like, I'd rather go, hey, we've done 3. I know I'm going to spend $60,000. Let's just take 20 off, or give them a rebate, or whatever that may be, or give them a bit of a upgrade, or half a furniture pack, whatever that would be, Like, what are your thoughts on that in that development phase? Because buyers agencies, it's a lot different, right? You can have a client that will come from Melbourne to say, I want a family
Yeah.
home. And it could be a family home in the back of Robina for, $1.3 million. Like that's not development, right?
Right.
We're talking about active development. So how are you looking at that in your business?
Such an awesome question. One of my business mentors, we're mapping it out literally as we speak, because it was a bit of a penny drop moment for me, right? Like it was probably 2.5 years ago, we started getting a lot of, I'd call it small to medium scale, like duplexes, cut into 3 maybe, or knockdown rebuild. Started getting heaps of them.
When you say started getting heaps of them, heaps of people wanting to buy the finished stock, or people buying the raw land to develop?
Yeah, like an old house, knock it, and then split it into maybe 2.
Yeah. So the developer's going, Matt, find me this so I can build this.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Not the buyer going, Matt, I want to buy the finished product.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's-
We have them too, but
Yeah.
I noticed this, like, because the thing was, right, everyone seen the need, because there was a lot of people who don't want to build because of I noticed it when the build costs started going sky high. And so the mum and dad renovator, they just wanted a turnkey, move straight in. People were moving here, but there wasn't enough of that available. So the people who could build these things were, your builders, and they all own building companies, and they seen it as a way where, I got client work, but hey, I want to start doing my own stuff now. That was a huge little niche. We work with a lot, and what I found was a lot of them became repeat clients. So as any great business, any sort of reoccurring revenue model is attractive, and you build a good trust on the first one, then you do it again. So like we've helped heaps of people now. And then that's why I was like, I've started niching as in terms of myself in really doing a lot in that knockdown rebuild side, because I've seen the need for exactly what you're saying. And the cool thing is they would come to us sort of mid-build, starter build, and end of build. So we bought a property off market in Koala Park in Burleigh Heads on Tawari. We secured it for 1.7, which was the same owner bought it 4 years ago for 1.7. We bought it for 1.7. Again, we could go into the whole negotiation thing, but long story short, we needed like a 21-day cash settlement. This guy was under the pump, needed to offload ASAP. Connections, we got it done. Our client could do cash offer, bang, done. That client, then their builder,
Can I say,
Yep.
I just don't forget what you're going to say.
yeah.
So did you already have the client that was selling, or did you have the buyer?
The buyer for that one. Yep.
So
The
you had
buyer.
the buyer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
The buyer wanted to find a block to do like a knockdown
Yeah,
rebuild. They were a builder
Yeah.
themselves. They said, yep, let's engage you. Bang. We found this site, 1.7 off market. No one knew about it in Koala Park. Undoubtedly one of the hottest little pockets. Bought it north facing rear. They told me what they were thinking, and they asked around what are the buyers wanting. And, we spoke around floor plan. I'm really blessed personally because I host a show called Buying Gold Coast, where we actually interview a lot of these who have done really successful things in property. So I learned I've got all my notepad, and I'm just hearing the same things. Floor plan, like don't mess up floor plan. It's the one thing you can't really change. So if you're going to go hard, make sure it's a good floor plan working with the aspect of the block. I found number 2 is, especially now, people are spending more time at home. So I was telling these guys, I found a recent stat from REA, and the word wellness space and sauna were one of the most searched keywords in the past 12 months, which is very interesting because it never was even in the picture a few months ago. So I told them, I reckon it wouldn't hurt to do like an infrared little sauna, little plunge, kind of inside the home. And then the third was the master has to be a master suite. Like it's like you got to cater to the woman, but
It's funny. James just scolded me because we are literally pulling apart plans on this new luxury development we're doing, right? And we're like, we've ticked that box, but it's something that I'd probably, after this we'll go through with you at some point, and James, because so what you're saying is so true. And I've just put I'm doing another development at the moment, and the cold plunge and hot tub
Yeah,
just got poured 3 days ago, right?
Yeah,
Because
love it.
exactly. It's listening to what people want.
Mm,
Don't listen to what you want. If it's
yes.
your forever home, different story. And this is where I think a lot of developers get things wrong, is they think what they want.
Yes.
I like a black kitchen. I like them,
Yeah.
that's not what the woman wants, right?
Yes.
Like when you start looking at houses that are selling and you're going, that's sitting on the market. Oh, why is that sitting on the market? And you look at it and you go, I know exactly why that's sitting on the
There's,
market.
there's no walk-in robe,
You know?
of it, or it's got a
Right.
single tap basin, and that's what we're doing at the moment.
Huge.
Just to emphasise this point, is pushing out the living to make sure that living space is actually living. It's not you can swing more than a cat in it, and that plunge piece as well, if it's in that luxury part of the market. So it's it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
that.
So
Yeah.
what was
Yeah,
a
and
couple other
yeah, and then the thing was they listened to it mid build and did all that. Anyways, they sold for a record price and they're on to their next project, things like that. But the feedback they had is funny. A lot of the buyers that loved it, they loved that. Hey, it had a wellness retreat inside. The floor plan was large, like they did the void where the stairs were, so it had this sense of big. And then the master suite, it had the floor to ceiling mirror and like the little, it's nearly like you're walking into the wardrobe, a Louis Vuitton store, it had all the pull out things. So all the things we spoke around that we gave advice on were the key reasons why the buyers got in competition. So when you asked him before around, is there a niche or a business, or I think that's what I'm trying to work on now, is like getting the business to cater for all these different segments, because at the end of the day, the bread and butter, your first home buyers, there's so many people moving here and they need help. And I'm trying to find specialists in each section. But what I'm really interested in is the growing demand for people like that. Like they're wanting to do a development, they want feedback during the build. They'll go through the one here and then they'll roll into, they're setting entity, set structures, and they're just rolling, bang, next one, doing it like that. So
the reality with development, developers develop things to sell.
yes.
And they don't want to do one, right?
Yeah.
They want to do two, they want to do three, they want to do four. And a lot of the people listening, right, and with Unemployable Property and what we're doing, people are learning this, not just to do one or two. People are learning this that want to do this full time, right? Like Shannon and Carson. And that's why they're so inspirational in what they do, right? Is people want to do this full time. Like it's like you just loved real estate, you got into it. That's the same thing with me. I had a passion for it. I love it. I love the tangible side to it. The, seeing someone and handing them the keys and making them smile, whether it's a tenant or whether it's, a buyer.
It's just trying to find that balance, isn't it? Because as a developer, we want to make a margin. So you've got a nice block on the canal, and then it's like, okay, do we ring up the cookie cutter builder and do the cheapest kind of luxury build? I've seen sometimes where someone's built the suspended concrete and they've watched the Greyers of the world and they're killing it. But then there's also people that overcapitalize, right? They spend so much money on the build. It looks amazing. It's knowing your market, knowing your piece of dirt, because sometimes the really nice Metricon house costs half the price to build is going to make the money. So, but then there's the flip side that if you don't, you can undercapitalize as well. I've seen a beautiful block with incredible views, and I won't say the brand of the house, but it was like a stock standard.
Yes.
They spent like $400,000
Wow.
on this house, on this $1 million block, and just ruined the block. Like I'd knock it down and start again. So yes, you got to find the you got to make a margin, because you won't even get the loan from the bank unless we're making a 15% margin, give or take. And the bigger the project, it's going to be probably over 20%. So are you finding your buyers at the back end, how discerning are they, where they go, that is a cookie cutter, like, nice luxury, you can say, it's a nice house with a little bit of lipstick and they put some nice taps on it? Or are you seeing the discerning buyer saying, I can see the quality here, I want to spend, the extra $1 million? Because people just go, well, it's a 400 square meter house, there's a 400 square meter house, they're both on the canal. So do you have any advice for an incoming developer? Because obviously you got to find that margin, but I guess it's knowing your market, knowing your piece of dirt. So I guess the question is, are the buyers discerning enough to pay that extra $1 million? Are they seeing the quality, or is that something you can coach someone through and say, hey, this is worth the extra $1 million because of X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
So-
I'll give you 2 really quick examples. Number one, there was a property, I won't name the builder or anything like that, but I remember chatting to the agent, and he called me and he said, and he actually wasn't a Gold Coast agent. He just knew my profile and he gave me a place. He said, man, it's one of the best build. He's like, what's doing? Like, is there something going on the Gold Coast, whatever? And I said, man, I seen that one come on. Unreal build. It's on the wrong side of the highway. It's in a prevalent postcode, but this is what I would say around the Gold Coast. There's pockets within pockets. So this pocket in a particular postcode, it had the right postcode, but it was in the wrong pocket and it was in the wrong side of the M1. Unreal build. You copy and paste that property, probably 1.5 kilometers east. You know, they're hitting the margin and they're making fat. I think it might be still sitting on the market.
I know the
unfortunately.
exact property
Yeah,
talking about.
yeah. So, good example,
Which
right?
is a beautiful, the
Beautiful.
same one I'm thinking of. It's a beautiful property, and it's the same thing, but it's beautiful. But again, colors matter.
Yes,
Colors matter. You
exactly.
know what I mean? Like, I love it. My wife, is she gonna like? The reality is this: the woman buys the house. Like, you're not gonna buy the house unless the woman wants it. Unless you're a single man, different story, right? But and you got to think about that, right? Like right now, you know, we're setting something else up, you know, in behind the scenes, and it's going to be more targeted towards women, right? Well, one of our main guys that works with us sends me a logo, and I'm like, no, like let's let a woman design the logo, because the woman's going to know what the woman wants, right?
Yes.
And this is another thing, like when we're talking about this development space, one of the most underrated things that people look at is a interior designer, right?
Yeah.
People go, oh, I could do this, right? And then they fuck it up. Is what they do.
Yeah.
Right. Because they don't want to go and spend the 15, 20, 25, 30, whatever it is to actually hire that interior designer. But if you hire the right interior designer, right, they should make their money back
tenfold,
plus more,
Yeah.
right? Plus much more. But it's hard because it's kind of like, it's expensive when you look at, like, so just for selections, it's going to cost X amount. Well, my wife's pretty good at that. I know what's good. And that's that could be the difference on making money and not making money. What are your thoughts on that for developers as well, looking at, you know, because you're dealing with these buyers, like you just sold probably one of the nicest houses that, you know, the Gold Coast has seen in a long time.
Yeah.
Right. And we could talk about that.
Yeah.
Problem,
For sure.
right? And that was Havendine, who are developers here on the Gold Coast, built a place in Mermaid Waters, and Matt's buyer bought it at auction for 14 million and 5,000, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, 14 million in Mermaid Waters, but like unbelievable property. Like you look at that property and no stone was unturned. Like even for, I'm on REA every day. I know what's selling. I know what's not selling. Trying to do things and make the best decisions possible. But this house was unbelievable.
Yeah.
What do you feel made it unbelievable?
Yeah. And it probably goes back to what Carson was saying before. Like you've got location, great build, wrong location.
Yeah.
Number one, no traction, probably no fat is going to end up in that. If not, they might lose money. On the flip side, we just secured, you know, it was Australia's most viewed home, Australia-wide. It was on the Gold Coast, it's in Mermaid Waters. We just secured it for a client. Now, the client engaged us because they had no idea what it was worth and what, like the market, they had no idea. So we helped them understand, firstly, I say this, the block, like the location, I feel does 80% of the heavy lifting at the end of the day. And Carson nailed it before. You have to build to what the block is. This particular block we're talking around, north to east order, huge frontage, you know, it's like your fan block in a cul-de-sac, pretty much uninterrupted views with skyline views at night time. Like it's just one of those blocks like you can't replace. This particular builder, I felt, built for the block. And what I mean by that is nothing was skimped. Probably my biggest feedback I can give as well from understanding the builder's story and all of these great record results is that most of them don't have intention of selling. So that's nearly, I take that into account with some of the best developers I've seen, is they're designing things from a like owner occupier feel. Like they're thinking, what does the owner occupier want, who will pay the emotional side of things. And to give you an example, our client he's been looking for a while, and it was the one. It was the one for him. And I say this because I just got through another property before it hit the market. I think it's on the market now. Beautiful Hamptons home. One of the best Hamptons designs I've ever been in. Again, northeast to water, skyline views. Our client probably wouldn't pay $1,000 for it because Hamptons isn't his vibe. It will be for someone else, but that's why
Is that the one that just hit the market?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Beverly. Yeah,
Yep.
beautiful home.
Beautiful
Like
property.
beautiful,
Yesterday, yeah.
8-car garage. It's
Yep.
got it all, but not his style. His style is more the masculine style,
yeah,
like
yeah.
the industrial. And
Yeah.
and again, why he loved it was, what does that particular buyer like? Entertaining, pool, fire pit. If you looked at the actual, and I was educating on you could see all the little bits of gold and the bench tops, and like everything was hand put in. And he's got cars, and they were strategic where they put the windows with his nice cars so he can walk in and have a look at his cars. And so it's all them little things, I think, that I dare say, like, they cost a lot of money to put those extra glass and like it's
that house was on another
yeah.
level.
So that's what I mean. It's like people will pay. And I said in the article to realestate.com, they interviewed me after it, and I sort of said, my observation of the market now is that if you build the product, the buyers are now there. Whereas I had the same article questions probably 2 years ago, and I said, I reckon it's still another 12 to 24 months till we're seeing competitive tension above the $7-8 million ranges.
I mean, records are made to be broken, right? And that one definitely broke records.
We're going to wrap up soon, but I just want to quickly pick your brain on, most people in the development space start with reno flips.
Yep.
So where do you think the biggest bang for buck is? Obviously paint, carpet.
Yep.
But if you're doing your first reno flip and you're just doing a cosmetic renovation, any tips for people at home that want to spin a profit and get it back on the market within 3 months?
Yep. I would say you're better off paying a fair price for a well-located property rather than a great price for a poor located property. So what I mean by that is, I'd rather pay what the property's worth if this is in a blue chip pocket of the Gold Coast, rather than a bargain basement buy in a poor location. Because what you said there, Carson, if you're looking to make profit, I still believe on the Gold Coast, 80% of the margin is the street it's in, the location, which way it's facing. So I feel if you look and renovate, you can't out renovate a bad location, number one. Number two is, there's money can solve and there's money can't solve issues. And this is where I see people get it wrong with renos, is money can't solve busy roads, severe flood zones, backing onto the train station. Do you know what I mean? Money can't solve those things. Versus you find a site, great location, it's riddled with termites. Maybe it's got subsidence or asbestos vent. Money can actually solve a lot of those problems. It's just a matter of how much it'll cost, and does that fit into your FISO. People let go of really good deals because they get afraid of, I've said my story a few times. I bought a property in Mermaid and it had 26 grand worth of leaking toilets, and people let it go. People were letting it go because of that. And I was like, this is so under market value. Great location. Well, I'm buying this. Made a 310 grand equity uplift like in 90 days because I knew it was a money solve problem. So that's number two. And then number three is, again, probably spend in the areas where it counts, because not everyone has huge budgets if it's their first one. From what I've been learning on our podcast, Buying Gold Coast, I always hear the word kitchen and living. Like, you're right. People don't want a really crampy kitchen. So if you're looking at the property and it's crampy, can you knock out those walls? Is it get someone who actually knows what they're talking about, not just your mum or dad? Like, get a builder made in or something that's easy to get out of. Or, hey, no, that's going to cost a fortune in there. And then, your floor plans, kitchens, the key living areas are huge on that. And street appeal is probably a big one too. I'm just finding first impressions count.
That's awesome.
What's we'll wrap this up. What's your from a developer, put your developer hat on, top 3 suburbs right now
Yeah.
that you would be placing money in?
All right,
based on the demand that you're feeling, and from interstate, from locals that want to rebuy here, from internationals, which you mentioned earlier, are coming back into the market.
What I might do, I'll give maybe 2 or 3 for each side, and I'll say one is if budget was unlimited, just where I feel and then I'll give one where I see value.
Yes.
Is
And
budget.
then I want, if you were to do a development site, what would you do? Are you doing a reno flip? Are you doing a duplex, or are you doing a luxury build?
Yeah.
Okay.
On the locate, number one, just again, probably in order because of the land, like Mermaid Beach, that Nobby's precinct where the like there's a lot of wealth in there now. Like again, it sounds silly, but honestly, just park your car there one day and there's beautiful cars. There's a lot of, there's businesses going in there. There's wealthy restaurants. It's just a bit of a wealth pocket at the moment. In all report, the sales keep popping off in there. So yeah, Mermaid Beach is always on everyone's hot list. Palm Beach is a huge one too. I think the zoning's quite attractive going to Palm Beach. Like it's been a bit of it's flat, easy access. People love that. It's got the Currumbin Creek and the Tally Creek, so it's kind of its own little bubble. Now there's restaurants in there. And obviously Burleigh's, it's Burleigh Heads. Like that is when I'm from Brisbane, I used to think Surfers Paradise was the Gold Coast back in the day.
Same. That's where we arrived.
I think Burleigh Heads is becoming that now. So dry blocks in there are cracking 5s and 5.5 millions now. So there's money in there too. If you ask me where I feel the kind of, I like to call them bridesmaid suburbs in terms of what's Mermaid Waters is obviously big one off the back of Mermaid Beach. There's a little pocket. I'm not just saying this because I own a property in there. I'm going to do a development, but just behind kind of Pack Fair, there's this little pocket.
Meredith.
Vedicio and Vaticula. Like, why I like, because it's gentrifying. It's rough. It's still got that little bit of like, oh, don't leave your car locked in here. But go 10 minutes to the left, 10 minutes to the right. It's all multi-million-dollar houses. There's a few new builds going in there. I'm going to be interested.
Yeah, and there's
good
zoning in there as well.
Good zoning.
Complexes and simplexes.
And one thing I've always just loved is like looking on a map. Like I learned this very young when I started buying property in other states, is like just go on Google Maps and see what's around. Like there's bus stops, there's tram, there's a shopping center, there's a retail there's cafe. Like they're all within walking distance. There's schools. So it's going to be in demand. So yeah, Mermaid Waters for the maybe entry level buyer. I think we bought a few properties in the suburb of Carrara. Again, pockets within pockets. There's some flood zones, but there's like a Boonaroo part, they call it. I some elevated blocks behind Emerald Lakes golf courses.
Yeah, they got some beautiful views.
Beautiful views up, like banging views.
Good sized blocks too.
Huge.
Ashmore, they're
massive blocks.
1 into 2s. They're probably your 2 best suburbs.
Yeah, I agree. So everyone's, again, stigma. People never really looked at them back in the day. And then the third one is, I believe, that sort of kind of where we are at, like that Southport, literally where we are, like the Girl Street. We're close on a block not far from here. He's going to do probably a duplex, triplex potentially, but probably a duplex.
Yeah.
Probably get that in the low 1s off market. And again, stigma. Southport back in the day is, a bit of a stigma, but man, we could kick a footy in the TSS precincts across the road where there's Regatta Parade with $10-20 million houses. So I like these areas kind of there. So that's my probably blue chip. That's the upcoming value. And then to answer your question on
development. Yeah. So
yes.
flip, duplex, luxury build. If if you had entered into a competition and you had to make the most amount of profit, what are you doing?
I just think this all the time is like, what's the highest wealth bracket at the moment? So for example, we secured Australia's most viewed home, and the thing I was surprised with was I knew there'd be competition, but I didn't think there'd be 6 people bidding over $10 million. the reason is there's a shortage of like proper quality homes. That type of buyer, including our client, doesn't want a duplex. He'd rather pay a few extra mil for his own piece of titled land. So to answer you, I think it would probably be good, well-located block, build a stonker on it.
Yeah, it's funny because you look at that and people look at that high risk, but the reality is there's a different level of wealth, like we talked off camera here on the Gold Coast now, and all you got to do, right, is open your eyes, be aware. What you just said, go and park in Nobby's Beach, go and park at the Oracle in Broadbeach, sit there for an hour, grab a kebab at the lamb shop, and just look. Do the same thing in Nobby's, do the same thing in Burley Heads, and you're going to see a different caliber of people. They're spending money, they've got cars, they're living here now.
Yeah, it's crazy, and like it's so funny what happens behind the scenes too. Like we've worked with Olympians, NBA players. Like I don't even know how they know of the Gold Coast. Like we'd help someone who plays in the NBA right now. He's got Australian descent, but he's pretty much American. I don't even know how he knows the Gold Coast. So there's
Wait till the Olympics comes.
That's
on the map.
That's what I mean. It's like there's a lot of big name entrepreneurs and people that I had no idea live here as well. So yeah, it's really, really exciting.
I've got one last question for me anyway. So if you'd got your crystal ball out, overall Gold Coast, where do you see it in 2 years, 4 years, 5 years? Are we going to see a topping out in the dip, or are we going to see a gradual rise into the Olympics? What's your prediction?
Yeah, again, crystal ball. No one really knows, right? But
you've got one.
Yeah. I was at the ARIC conference, Australian Real Estate Conference last week, and Anthony Bell, he's Bell Partners, like he's world-renowned accountant, essentially. He broke it down the best I've heard it, and he spoke a lot on economic drivers worldwide. So he used examples of the tariffs and things, and then the Chinese stock, like where's all that stock gonna go now? It's probably our shores. And then he put in perspective of also the share market. A lot of people are moving out of that because of what's happened. Where do they go? Probably Australia's safest asset, which is real estate. And then we'll, again, talking on like places where it's very landlocked, where there isn't much green space available to build. Generally the places where you kind of have to go up or knock down. So he basically said it's going to be a bullish market from end of financial year, probably the next 6 to 12 months. It will be bullish. And he was very confident saying that. And look, I tend to agree. Interest rates drop. Yeah, there'll be more drops coming, I feel. All that's going to do is stimulate sentiment. Doing this job for so long and buying my own properties, I understand how much sentiment plays in terms of human psychology. Like I truly believe all my best deals personally have been when it's a bit more quiet. I get scared of these markets because as a buyer myself personally, like it's competitive. So I know it's going to be harder to get like really, really juicy deals. So if you're someone, to answer your question on where I feel it's going, I feel the prices are going to go up. Is it going to go COVID growth? I don't know, but it might be. But the thing that I'm noticing the most out of everything is the migration's gone up. The inventory level has stayed the same, if not lowered. And more people than ever are moving here because of lifestyle. So if people were moving here for an employment opportunity, like a mining opportunity or industry out
More
in
boom and bust.
Boom and bust. Yeah, I'd probably be a little bit more worried, but people are moving here to settle down and stay for the long term. So that excites me of like why I believe this city is got huge legs. I think in the next 3 to 5 years, we'll be all talking back here in 3 years time. We're like, remember where you could get a knockdown for 2 million? Like, we'll probably be Eastern Suburbs, 40, 50, 60 mils on the water soon, I reckon.
Matt, thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure having you here. And I'm sure we'll be I know we'll be in contact, and hopefully we could do some business in the future. What's the best way of people to get in contact with you? Obviously, you have a podcast as well called Buying Gold Coast. Is that on Spotify, Apple? Is that on YouTube as well?
Yep.
Or?
Yeah, it's on all of them. Check it out. We're stepping it up at the next month too, so there'll be more value back to the buyers. But yeah, just breaking down the Gold Coast a bit more, chatting to great guests, and big on social media, just Matt_Sarama, and the company's the SaramaGroup.com. But yeah, thanks so much for having me too. I love what you guys are doing and adding value back to the people.
Yeah, appreciate it. Same with you. Carson, as usual, thank you very much, and thank you for organizing Matt to come on. James, thank you very much. I think it's been great session. Yeah, thank you.
Sure. Thanks, fellas.
And thanks again, guys, for your attention. I mean, we do this every week. We show up for you guys, making sure that we're providing value for you guys in all ways. Let us know how we're going. Shoot us a comment. Please like, subscribe, and share, and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you.
Hey there, I hope you enjoyed that episode of Unemployable. If you'd like to watch another episode, just click there.